Hi, and welcome back to Excel for Educators. This is the second lesson in the intermediate series for Roll Your Own Gradebook. And in this lesson, we're going to learn to use the if function in Excel. Just a reminder that you can download the workbook that's shown in this tutorial and use it at home. In the first lesson, we set up two different data validation cells. One to split things by class period, and then another one to show us the last names of students. We're now going to use a new function, the if function, to fill in the information for the standards, the current scores, and the student's first name. So I'm actually going to start down here with the standards first. We're going to do a very simple model for the if formula here. Remember that we start with an equal sign if we need a function, and I'm going to put if. Now keep in mind that what Excel is looking for is a couple different things. First of all, it says it wants a logical test. What does that mean? It means it wants you to tell it what to look for. And in this case, I'm going to say if this cell says P1 biology, like it does right now, that's going to be our logical test. So if it's there, now Excel wants a value if this is true. So if there is actually P1 biology in the cell, it wants to know what to place in this cell. Here's where our formulas page is going to come into play. I'm going to tell it if that's true, please fill it with this standard. And then if it's not true, because Excel is now looking for what to put there if it's false, do this. Close our parentheses, enter, we're good to go. Okay, we don't have to do a special formula for the chemistry standards. Because we've only got two things right now, biology and chemistry, it's enough to tell Excel what to do if it says biology or if it's not biology. Okay, so I'm going to lock this cell. And then that way, when we select it, we can actually go to the bottom right hand corner where this changes to a little black plus sign and just choose the fill down option. And Excel will fill in all that information for us. Okay, so we're good to go. When we check up here, change it to chemistry. We've got a change down there. Alright. So now to do the first name and also the current scores, we're actually going to combine our if function with the index and match functions that we used in the beginner series. Now this is going to look a little scary, but it actually makes sense. So here's how we're going to start it. It's going to be an if function, so equals if. Alright, now we need to do the logical test. This part is going to be just the same as we did for the standard. If this equals P1 biology. Alright, now we're ready to give it a value if true. This is where index and match are going to come into play, because we need to fill it in with the student's first name. So I'm going to say index. Alright, what are we going to index? Well, this is biology, so we're going to index this range. Okay, I'm going to go up here to our formula. And what do I want to match it with? I want to match it with this cell. And I actually don't need the report there because it's going to be on the same page. Our array is going to be P1 biology. Remember, we named this range in the very first lesson. It needs to be an exact match. I'm going to put a 0 there, and then I can close our index function. Alright, now that's just if it's biology. So we've told Excel, if that says P1 biology in cell C4, then you're going to index the first names of the biology students and match them against the last name shown in C6. Alright, now we have to tell it what to do if there's not P1 biology there. So in other words, we're going to tell it to index. Now we need the chemistry names. So I want it to index these chemistry names, and I want it to match against what's in C6, just like we did for biology, against our P2 chemistry range. It needs to be an exact match. We'll close our parentheses, and now we've got it. Okay, so again, when I change this, our first name also updates. And if I want to look at chemistry students, I can change this now to chemistry and pick any of these names as well. Alright, so I know it looks like a really scary formula, but once you start walking through it, you'll be just fine. We're actually going to use the same formula down here for the current scores. So I'm going to do this one more time for you. Okay, so equals if this cell says P1 biology, then I want it to index what I want it to index. I want to index things for the very first standard. So I'm going to go back here and say, here's the current score that I want you to index. Match it with what you see in C6. Remember, that's the one with the student's last name. P1 biology is our list of last names. It needs to be an exact match. If we're not looking at biology in C4, then it needs to index. And this time we're going to go to chemistry. Here's the current scores for chemistry. Okay, and match against C6. That's the place with the student's last name. P2 chemistry is our list of chemistry students with last names. Needs to be an exact match. I'm going to close up the function, and now we've got the current score. Okay, this time you can't do a direct copy down. You can't just choose the fill tool, and that's because these current scores, whatever you've got up here, like J18 to J17, shifts depending upon where it is in the gradebook that you need it. Okay, so you'll have to go back and get those individually. But that's it. And so I'm going to fill these in and get them ready for our next session. In our very last lesson for this particular series, we're going to learn how to use this same sort of function, so the if, index, and match, to create a dynamic chart that we'll use to build our line graph and our bar graph for students. So come back and we'll do that next. See you then.